Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to go over the absolute insanity of the left in politics and how they are guilty of the very things they accuse others of. Let's start with this clip.
They've said over and over again for more than a decade, Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler, that, I just retweeted a couple of days ago. They don't kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi so they can kill you.
I don't know who made the original tweet he quoted, but they absolutely nailed it. We can tell because so many on the left think that assassination of their political opponents is justified. You see, while those who try to commit assassinations is a very bad situation, it is the fact that half of the left are fine with it, and that guarantees we will get more of it. It's especially scary that the very people using such hate speech about their opponents are the same people who complain about hate speech, because, you see, it shows they are irrational and only care about winning any way at all. Consider, by making false charges about hate speech, they have an excuse to take away your free speech. And by resorting to hate speech against you, they motivate mentally unstable people to resort to assassination, which not only takes away the victim's right to free speech permanently, but is designed to scare others into being afraid to even use their own free speech, which sounds like a very fascistic approach to politics. You might also notice that their hate rhetoric often includes targeting a person's family. Think about that. An individual may be brave enough to face the threats, but how likely are they to do so if it is their spouse and children who are also being threatened? These tactics of the left are themselves what we would expect from fascists and Nazis. Let's continue.
I saw polling just recently among people on the left. More than 50% of them believe it is justified to murder Elon Musk, and more than 50% believe it is justified to murder Donald Trump.
See what I mean? Because it is acceptable to so many, unstable people will think it is perfectly okay. Thus, you get more of it. How about this?
This is a left-wing phenomenon because they have spread poison. And if you tell people over and over again the other side is Hitler, it justifies acts of violence, and we need to say enough is enough.
It is standard operating procedure from the left to say, both sides do it. Every time it is mostly from their side. But they never say that if they are pointing to bad behavior from their opponents. I apply a basic rule when I evaluate these things. One is, how serious is the example being pointed to? The other is, how far up the food chain is it coming from? For example, some years ago, a news panel show was discussing the negative rhetoric that was dominating the left. Well, the leftist newswoman could only come up with a statement that began with, "There are some people on the internet," to try to show both sides do it. That's stupid. There are vast numbers of people on the internet, so if you are looking for something, you can almost certainly find someone saying it. But that dodges the point. Few people on the internet have much influence. Heck, most people don't even have a meaningful audience. Like my channel. I knew few people would watch it. Compare that to the same things coming from a senator or congressman or former president or presidential candidate or a well-known reporter on a national news station. The left literally tries to downplay the crap from their leaders by pretending random people on the internet are equivalent in their impact. I wouldn't expect a Democrat to account for the statements of some oddball posting on the internet from their mother's basement, but I will hold them to account for what their high-level people say, as well as the results where half of their followers are willing to justify violence. Yet even after the violence, they keep right on doing it, almost as if they think the results are a good thing. They don't even know what they're talking about, and I'm including the news media in this. I still see claims that Charlie Kirk was far right, but what I have not seen is anything that shows he was far right. In a previous video, I covered several attempts to label him in various negative ways, and if you watched it, you would know that every time they left out context or twisted what he said in other ways. So either they don't know what they're talking about, or they are flat out lying. Don't like it when Kirk said a man and a woman are biological entities, not what you think you are? Fine. Try to argue your position, if you can. But Kirk's position is certainly not far right. It's the position of the entire human race for thousands of years. Besides, as I have also pointed out in a prior video, the left uses the trans issue to justify letting men in women's sports, including in the locker room. Yet women's sports were necessary because in most sports, the men have major physical advantages. No one was saying separate teams were needed because if people think of themselves a certain way, they have a physical disadvantage. You want to think you are a different sex than you were born as? Fine. But trying to force others to succumb to your personal beliefs while ignoring science is kind of a fascistic approach, isn't it? Even the No Kings protests are a joke. The Democrats are using the court system to try to block Trump, and Trump responds using the court system as well. If he was an absolute monarch, that would never happen. Who is really trying to be tyrannical? The Democrats don't like it that their views no longer dominate on the Supreme Court. It took decades for that to gradually change as various presidents got to make nominations. There has been an interesting pattern, supported by most of the media. That is, if a liberal was being replaced, all we heard was that a Republican had to appoint another liberal to maintain the balance. A balance that, for most of my life, meant the liberals stayed in control. But when a conservative was to be replaced, we not only didn't hear any concern about maintaining balance, but a conservative was replaced by a liberal. But it gets worse, because real fascists can't stand to lose control. So when they lost control of the court, what did the Democrats start saying? They said that when they got control of Congress again, they wanted to add 4 more justices. Think about that. Because they no longer had control, they wanted to add 44% more justices, which, because it would happen when they held the presidency, would all be liberals and serving for life. A king would love that. I'll also project that if they were able to make that change and later the Republicans got back in control and said they were going to add just 2 seats, all the Democrats and most of the media would immediately declare that that was a fascist act, even if the Democrats previously added 4. Folks, it isn't about the left being worried about fascism. It is all about the left thinking they must retain control no matter what. And they'll use any tactic, including assassination, to accomplish that. Same as a tyrannical regime would do. Sure, the ordinary Democrat wouldn't advocate for assassination, but the same can probably be said about the average citizen in Nazi Germany in regard to the slaughter of Jews and others. But at the same time, an awful lot of them tolerated it, didn't they? Of course, a lot of them were no doubt fearing for their own lives. We seem to be heading the same way. Look at how fast the left turns on any of their own side if they don't toe the approved line. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.